You are going to die with unread messages, unfinished projects, and a to-do list that never becomes a done list. Much of what you are anxious about today will never happen, and yet it is quietly stealing the only thing that is truly yours, this moment right now. We grow up believing time is a line we travel along. Past behind us, future ahead of us, the present a thin slice in between. But if you look directly at your experience, that story begins to crack. You have memories of the past and images of the future, yet you never leave this single point of awareness. Everything you have ever lived has unfolded in what we call now. The uncomfortable truth is that most of your suffering does not come from what is happening, but from the times you are not actually in. In this video, I want to offer you a different relationship with time. Not a trick to live in the present for a weekend and then forget it, but a quieter, deeper shift. To see how much of your fear, anxiety, and sense of being trapped comes from an illusion of time, and how, by changing the way you relate to this moment, you can move through life with more strength, more clarity, and a calm that doesn't depend on circumstances. Philosophers have argued for centuries about the nature of time. The Stoics spoke less about clocks and more about control, what is within our power and what is not. That distinction is where time becomes real in your life. The past is entirely outside your power. The future is almost entirely outside your power. The present moment is where your power starts and ends. This is not an abstract idea. It shows up in your most ordinary private battles. Think of the last night you couldn't sleep because your mind wouldn't stop moving. Your body was in a dark room lying on a bed, but your attention was miles and years away, replaying what you said or did not say months ago, rehearsing what might go wrong tomorrow. The suffering was real. The time in which it seemed to occur was not. The only time that existed was the quiet room and your breathing. Yet your mind was living somewhere else entirely. Here is a hard truth. You have never actually visited the past or the future. You have only visited thoughts about them. Your memory is not the event. It is your mind's present reconstruction. Your fear is not tomorrow. It is your mind's present prediction. We treat these thoughts as if they are places we can go and fix things, but they are only images on the wall of this moment. When you begin to see this, another shift appears. If most of your distress lives in imaginary time, then your freedom begins in the way you relate to those images. You cannot change what has happened, and you cannot guarantee what will happen. But you can change the way you see right now. Marcus Aurelius, writing as emperor and as a man who knew loss, sickness, and war, reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He could have added, "You have power in this moment, not in the times you only think about." Picture a simple scene. You receive a short, vague email from your boss. "Can we talk tomorrow?" You read it once. 10 seconds of your life. Then your mind picks it up and carries it through hours or days. You imagine being fired, criticized, exposed. Your heart rate rises. You replay every mistake from the last month. By the time you sit down in the actual meeting, you have suffered through half a dozen imaginary futures. Most of them never occur. The pain was genuine. The time in which it played out was an invention. The Stoic move here is not to deny reality but to divide it. What is within my control right now and what is not? You cannot control what your boss will say tomorrow. You can control whether you answer that email with clarity, whether you spend the evening preparing thoughtfully instead of catastrophizing, whether you treat yourself kindly in the meantime. Time, from this perspective, is not a river dragging you forward. It is a series of moments in which you either exercise your limited power or waste it fighting ghosts. There is another uncomfortable truth. Your constant planning, worrying, and revisiting are often attempts to escape from the raw uncertainty of the present. You are not only afraid of what might happen, you are afraid of standing undefended in the one place where life is actually happening. The mind tries to negotiate with the future in advance, as if enough imagining could guarantee safety. It cannot. What it can do is exhaust you. Here is a different reflection. The present is not an enemy you must escape. It is neutral, quiet, and much simpler than your thoughts about it. Right now, as you listen, there is only sound, maybe the feeling of your chair, the soft light around you. The moment itself is rarely as heavy as the story your mind tells about what this moment means for your whole past and whole future. If you subtract that story, what remains is not dramatic. It is just this ordinary, direct, manageable. Modern life constantly pulls you away from this directness. Consider how often your phone becomes a time machine. A notification arrives. Before you see it, you are here. After you open it, you are suddenly back in an old argument or ahead in a possible crisis. The device is in your hand now, but your mind is not. We scroll through other people's lives, comparing our past to their highlight reel and our uncertain future to their apparent certainty. We mistake this mental travel for being informed, connected, prepared. Often we are just absent. The practical question is not, how do I stay in the present forever? That is impossible. The mind will wander. Instead, ask, how quickly can I remember that I have left, and how gently can I return? This is where philosophy becomes a lived practice rather than a theory. Every time you notice, I am arguing with a moment that does not yet exist, and soften that argument, you reclaim a little freedom. Every time you say, this is what is actually in front of me, and do the next small, sane thing, you step out of the illusion of time and back into your life. If reflections like these help you see your own life more clearly, you might consider subscribing to this channel and leaving a thoughtful comment about how you relate to time. It encourages me to keep exploring these questions with you, and your reflections might quietly help someone else who finds their way here. Up to this point, we have been looking at time as a mental habit. Let us turn to the emotions that habit produces: fear, failure, pain, and the quiet anxiety that hums beneath your day. Each of these is tied in its own way to a distortion of time. Fear almost always points forward. You are afraid not of what is, but of what might be. The mind creates a movie in which you lose your job, are abandoned, become ill, are humiliated, or simply feel as lost tomorrow as you do today. It then reacts to this invented film as if it is already happening. That is why fear feels so physical. Your body is responding to an imagined future with real tension, real chemical surges, real exhaustion. Failure, on the other hand, points backward. You take a moment in the past and freeze it into an identity. I failed becomes, I am a failure. You stitch together a few events and turn them into a story about what you can never be, what you will never deserve. This story then quietly shapes your future, not because it is true in some absolute sense, but because you keep carrying yesterday into tomorrow. Pain belongs to the present, but even pain is stretched or reduced by time. There is the raw sensation, the ache in your body, the sharpness of grief, the sting of rejection. Then there is everything you add to it. This will never end. This means I am broken. This ruined my life. The Stoics did not deny pain. They experienced loss, exile, and injury as acutely as anyone. But they noticed that much of what we call suffering is pain multiplied by time. The belief that what hurts now will dominate all your days. Here is a hard truth. Most of your fear is about futures that never arrive. Most of your guilt is about pasts that no longer exist. And most of your ongoing suffering is a present pain held in place by those two. The mind uses time to trap you. What happens if, just for a moment, you let time contract back to what is actually here? Imagine a difficult conversation you are dreading. There is the fantasy of it, arguments rehearsed in your head, accusations imagined, defenses sharpened. Then there is the reality. Two people in a room, words spoken one after another, breath entering and leaving your body. If you stay only with what is actually occurring, you may still feel discomfort, but it becomes something you can move through, one sentence at a time, one breath at a time. You are no longer living the entire imagined catastrophe in advance. You can practice this in very small, ordinary ways. Standing in line at the grocery store, notice how quickly you reach for your phone, not because you need information but because the present feels too empty. Try just once to leave the phone in your pocket. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice your impatience, your thoughts about what else you should be doing. See how your mind tries to flee the simplicity of being a person in a line. You are not doing this to become some kind of spiritual ideal. You are simply learning to recognize the moments when you are tempted to abandon your own life. Another uncomfortable truth: the way we chase productivity and efficiency often hides a deeper fear of stillness. We schedule every hour, optimize every routine, and pride ourselves on being busy, as if activity itself guarantees meaning. Yet many people who appear successful live with a constant, quiet panic that they are running out of time. They are not free, they are driven. The Stoic view of freedom is far less glamorous and far more accessible. Freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want whenever you want. It is the ability not to be dragged around by every thought, every fear, every impulse that passes through your mind. It is the strength to decide in this moment how you will respond, even if you cannot decide what happens next. Think of someone stuck in heavy traffic. One person sits behind the wheel, enraged, rehearsing arguments with imaginary drivers, catastrophizing about being late, feeling their whole future hanging on this delay. Another person is in the same car, the same jam. They do not pretend to enjoy it, but they know the situation is outside their control. So they choose what is within their power, turning off the angry talk radio, taking a slow breath, perhaps using the time to call a loved one or simply resting their mind. Both are in the same present moment. The difference is not the time, but the way they inhabit it. This is why the Stoics kept the thought of death close, not to depress themselves, but to sharpen their attention. Remembering that your days are limited does not mean rushing faster. It means asking in a quieter way, if I cannot recover this hour once it has passed, how do I want to show up in it? Not, what can I achieve, but, what kind of person am I being right now? Anxiety shrinks under this question because it shifts you from infinite hypothetical futures to a single living choice. So what does it mean to escape from the present? On the surface, it sounds like leaving this moment behind. But the escape that truly matters is subtler. You are not escaping from the present. You are escaping from a false present. The present that is buried under your projections, your regrets, your constant negotiations with time. The real present is almost always simpler, quieter, and kinder than the one in your head. In practice, this escape is not dramatic. It looks like this. You notice that you are arguing with a future that does not exist, and you pause. You acknowledge, I am afraid, or I am sad, not as permanent identities but as passing states. You bring your attention to one concrete action you can take now. Sending the email you have been avoiding, stepping outside for a few minutes of air, apologizing, beginning the work even though you don't feel ready. You allow life to be lived in small, honest steps instead of in endless imaginary leaps. At the end of the day, you can add a second kind of practice. Before you sleep, instead of scrolling through other people's time, look back gently over your own. Not to punish yourself, but to understand. Where did I abandon this moment today? Where did I stay? Where did I react automatically, and where did I choose? Over time, this simple reflection strengthens a part of you that is capable of standing in the present with open eyes, even when it is uncomfortable. You do not need to win a war against time. You do not need to force your mind to stay still or pretend to enjoy every moment. You only need to see clearly when you have left and remember that you can return. Again and again, in the middle of noise, in the middle of struggle, you can quietly say, this is the moment I have. This is where my life is. This is where my freedom begins. And perhaps as you move through your days, you will start to feel something different. The past will still visit you, but more as a teacher than a jailer. The future will still concern you, but more as a field of possibility than a landscape of threat. The present will still hold pain and uncertainty, but it will no longer feel like a place you must escape at any cost. It will feel more and more like home. Time will continue to pass. Clocks will keep moving. Plans will be made and some will fall apart. But beneath all of that, there is this single living instant in which you can see, choose, and act. When everything else is stripped away, that is all you have ever had, and it is enough.